The 2027 Rugby World Cup is still more than 2.5 years away. We are, of course, hoping for a third Springbok win in a row. But who might we be facing at that World Cup in Australia? Today, you are going to get a front row seat as I reveal the 4 teams that qualified for Australia 2027 in the last few days. Now let's begin by reminding you who the teams are that have already qualified. South Africa as the defending champions, the other 7 quarterfinalists from France 2023, that would be New Zealand, England, Argentina, Wales, Fiji, Ireland, and the French. And then the teams that finished third in the pools in 2023 also qualified automatically. So that's Italy, Scotland, Japan, and Australia, who qualified as the host nation anyway. The tournament has been expanded to 24 teams for the next World Cup, and there was a series of matches in Europe on Saturday and Sunday, and I can confirm that Georgia, Spain, Romania, and Portugal have booked their places in Australia. These 4 teams did so by reaching the Rugby Europe Championship semi-finals. That's basically the second tier to the 6 nations. For the Georgians, it's something of a homecoming. It's not only their 7th Rugby World Cup tournament in a row that they'll feature in, but they also appeared at the tournament for the first time when it was last hosted in Australia. That was in 2003.
Looking for the 4th try, Georgia. Niniashvili, try. There it is. It's been a long time.
For the Spaniards, this completes a long and arduous road to the World Cup. They featured at the Rugby World Cup back in 1999. You might remember the Spanish were in the same group as the Springboks. Yes, we beat them comfortably, but they lost all 3 matches. But it's nice to see them back.
Spain coming through, and here comes the first try. It's going to be the tight head prop who goes over, Lucas Santamaria.
They might have actually qualified for 2019 and 2023 as well, had it not been for fielding an ineligible player or players in the qualifiers. And for what it's worth, I've been told, reliably, that the King of Spain, Felipe VI, is a rugby fan too. On to the Romanians, who will appear at the Rugby World Cup for the 2nd straight tournament after missing out on 2019. Failure to qualify for Japan actually broke their streak of playing at every Rugby World Cup since the inaugural event in 1987. Can they win a match in 2027? We'll have to wait and see. And then Portugal, the success story of 2023. They are on their way to another Rugby World Cup. This will be their 3rd appearance and 2nd in a row. We had them in South Africa last year, you might remember, and it was a great occasion in Bloemfontein. And they really were the darlings of that 2023 Rugby World Cup, with their spirited performances that culminated in that glorious win over Fiji. Now, how far can these teams go in Australia, you might wonder? Well, the first thing to note is that the format has changed. There will be 24 teams at the next Rugby World Cup, and they will be divided into 6 pools consisting of 4 teams each. The top 2 will go through to the last 16, and then 4 of the 3rd place teams will also advance to that round. So for a team like Georgia, I'd say they'd have a great shot at finishing as one of those best 3rd place teams and go through. Portugal perhaps also. Spain and Romania likely just hoping for a win, but why not aim for even better? And remember, once you're in the knockout rounds, anything can happen. There will be an upset. And ideally, for a team like the Georgians, they'd love to get a side of similar standard in that last 16. Imagine drawing Samoa, for example. A quarter-final place is suddenly then a real possibility. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Now, a reminder that there are 8 remaining places available at the next Rugby World Cup. Remember the 12 that had already qualified, plus these 4 from Europe from the weekend. But who might the remaining 8 be? Let me explain who they possibly will be and how they're going to get there. Let's start in Africa, our continent. The champions of the 2025 Rugby Africa Men's Cup will go to Australia. Now that's most likely going to be Namibia. But the runner-up will advance to an Asia-Africa playoff match. And that could very well be Zimbabwe. The Sables have been on an upward trajectory, guys. It's very exciting if you've been keeping an eye on Zimbabwean rugby. They're on the move. Remember, they were at the first two World Cups, 87 and 91. And for a long time, they had slipped down in the rankings. They were nowhere near Namibia. They'd fallen behind teams like Algeria, Kenya, but they're back. They really are back. And it's exciting to see. And wouldn't we love to see the Zimbabweans back at the Rugby World Cup? It's been far too long. Other teams in contention, as I mentioned, the Algerians, Cote d'Ivoire, remember they were at the 1995 Rugby World Cup in South Africa, and the Kenyans. Let's look at Asia, since we just mentioned them. Whoever wins the Asia Rugby Men's Championship 2025 will qualify for 2027. Now, Japan have already qualified, so they're not part of that, but Hong Kong is the clear favorite for that. But the runner-up will go to that Asia-Africa playoff match. Now, that could be South Korea, Malaysia, or the United Arab Emirates. Now, I think it would be South Korea, but regardless, I make the African team the hot favorites in that contest. And whoever wins that match advances to the final qualification tournament. So according to me, Zimbabwe are on their way to that qualification tournament, the final one. South America will also get an additional team. The winner of the Sudamerica Rugby Championship later this year will head to Australia. Now that's going to be either Brazil, Chile, Paraguay, or Uruguay. It has to be the Uruguayans, right? The runner-up will get another shot at qualification though, and I would pick it to be Chile. The third place team advances to that final qualification tournament, and I'm probably looking at Brazil in this instance. Then, 3 teams from the Pacific will qualify for Australia. The best 3 teams from the 2025 Pacific Nations Cup will advance to the Rugby World Cup. Now remember, Fiji and Japan have already qualified. Japan are actually part of that Pacific qualification process, which is why they wouldn't be part of that process that I just described, which includes Hong Kong and South Korea. So Fiji and Japan have already qualified. So 3 of Canada, Samoa, Tonga, and the USA will go to 2027. 3 of those 4 teams. And the team that doesn't make it, because let's be honest, what it means is that as long as you don't finish last, you will go to the World Cup. And if you do finish last, and I'm going to have to go with Canada in this case, then it means that, hypothetically, the Canadians will have to face Chile. Most likely, well, as I said, I suspect that the runner-up from that Sudamericana or Sudamerica tournament will be the Chileans. So Canada, Chile, because that is going to be what they call the South America Pacific playoff match. The loser will get another shot at the final qualification tournament. Do you know why they've done this, guys? I've got a theory. Because the United States are hosting the 2031 Rugby World Cup, and because they've identified the USA as the sleeping giant, the untapped market, the place where the money might be, the gold mine of the future, they need the USA at the Rugby World Cup. Now remember, the Eagles didn't qualify for France 2023. So have a look at this. You've got Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, Japan, the USA, and Canada, right? 6 teams. And basically, 4 of them qualify for the Rugby World Cup. And then the bottom 2 teams, sorry, I beg your pardon, 5 of them qualify for the Rugby World Cup. So the USA need to be 5th out of 6 teams to get to the World Cup. And then if you're still not there, and you're the bottom team, you get a playoff against a South American team, which if you win, you go to the Rugby World Cup. And if you don't win, you then go to that final qualification tournament where you get another crack. So I think it's going to be Canada, to be perfectly honest. But if it's the United States, they get the Pacific Nations Cup. If they don't make it out of that, they get a playoff against a team from South America. And if they don't win that, they get the final qualification tournament where we're expecting Zimbabwe, Brazil, the team that finishes 5th at the Rugby Europe Championship. Now look, again, I don't think it'll be the USA, I think it'll be Canada. So that final tournament, Zimbabwe, Canada, Brazil, and then the 5th team from the Rugby Europe Championship. That could be Belgium, by the way. I think it'll be Belgium. And out of that lot, well, take your pick. I would say Zimbabwe or Canada, the two most likely to do it. But who knows? It's not a foregone conclusion. So what do you think? What are your thoughts on this 2014 Rugby World Cup? What are your thoughts on the qualification process? Who do you think is going to make it to Australia in 2027? Do you agree with my very early predictions on who the teams will be? Or do you have an ace in the hole, as they say? Let me know in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, you can also make a highlighted comment. That's by clicking on the heart button with a $sign inside of it. That's called Super Thanks. And if you do that, it'll give you the opportunity to not only make the highlighted comment, but I promise to reply. I will also click on the heart button on your comment, and it'll give you the opportunity to make a small donation to my channel. Why? Well, I want to go to this Rugby World Cup in 2027 and cover it for you from down under with daily coverage. And I would be very, very grateful if you would do that. If you're not yet ready to subscribe, or to support me, I beg your pardon in that manner, you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And you know what else you can do? You can click on the like button. In fact, you can crock roll the like button while you're down there. Now, speaking of the Rugby World Cup, South Africa won the last one in 2023. About 3 months ago, I did a video describing how I felt in the moment of us winning that tournament 1 year later. It was a nice little nostalgic trip. If you want to see what I had to say, and I'll reveal if I cried or not, you can watch that video. It's on your screen over here. And we mentioned Spain returning to the Rugby World Cup. Well, there was one Springbok who made his debut in that match. Unfortunately, it was also his only Springbok test cap, Kaya Malotana. He joined me for a fascinating, exclusive interview. Hear what he had to say in this video over here, and I will speak to you next time.